Hello and welcome. This may seem a more similar environment for you to see me in. A little more background noise with the traffic. There's a main road not far, just out there. You can also hear some chanting from the local temple. Albeit I think it might be recorded. I'm not sure. I went there yesterday, just after the chanting had finished. And I couldn't find any monks, only one. So it makes me think it's a recording. But I'd like to now get on with some talk about some of these comments, and I'll begin with the ones I must admit I've been avoiding only because they're good questions, but I had difficulty finding the question in the context, so I've highlighted them. I found how to highlight the question to make it a little easier for me to answer your questions. So I apologise if it's been a few days and I haven't responded, but I always try to respond to all questions via this questions and answers medium, if not directly. Certainly any questions I receive by email I answer to you directly and personally. I don't actually air those on this medium. They are, I regard, private between you and me. These questions all come from the comments that are posted on YouTube in this public forum, I think you'd call it. So the first question, how do I learn to love everyone? Well, I don't think you can learn to love everyone. We develop metta, loving kindness. We develop karuna, compassion. We develop mudita, joy for others. And we develop equanimity and unreactiveness or passiveness, let's say. You can still react positively, but thoughtfully. These are what we call the 4 Brahma Viharas. When I say develop, my practice is such that I prefer to see metta practice, which is often used as a meditation object in a way, sitting, listing, naming, starting from oneself and working outwardly towards your immediate neighbours, physically, further away, expressing metta, sending metta throughout the world, and then also to all beings, sea, land, sky, both alive and in other realms. This is a good practice. It's thoughtful, it's mindful, it's helping to develop that quality of metta. Personally, it's more comfortable with me to actually develop loving kindness, metta, in that same format towards myself first. In this entire practice, we don't strive to save the world, to help the world, to cure the world, or to cure all beings, but to save ourselves, to help ourselves, to cure ourselves of suffering in this very lifetime, in order to set an example for all beings to follow, and therefore have the ability, be empowered to heal, save, cure themselves. This way you can be sure they will experientially become free from suffering as you can, rather than you kind of metaphorically trying to spread this idea through a form of energy radiation. That as a practice, an analogy, isn't a bad thing. It's a good exercise. Just, I'm expressing my personal opinion that if one can develop metta within oneself, firstly, so therefore ridding any disliking and hatred you might have of yourself, which are usually attributed to your view of personality, which is of course something we're trying to get rid of. I shouldn't say get rid of, because we don't need to try and get rid of anything in Buddhism, but eradicate it from our mind states. This idea that I am what I am, rather than you are in fact only a result of the causes and conditions you have put in place through all actions of body, speech and mind. Seeing this clearly allows you to have compassion for yourself, karuna, the second of those 4 Brahma Viharas, and therefore develop metta. Loving kindness is its English translation, but it means a little more than that. Less flowery, less pink-coloured, rosy-tinted glasses, loving and piecing all of the world, but more a real, deep, inner-seated quality of kindness. Loving kindness as in the unconditional love a mother has for its child. This is a quality we can hold on to. Hold on to tightly but gently, as if holding an egg so as not to crush it, not to break it, but to keep it protected within ourselves. Now this way you will exude naturally metta, loving kindness. Much like a flower has its perfume, has its beauty that can be experienced by all, it isn't sending that out, technically in a way through waves. It is, I suppose, light waves, aroma, odour, smell. But in essence, we're not really such receiving that. We know the flower has its perfume, has its beauty, and this in itself gives the viewer the perspective of the flower a good feeling. Similarly, if you have developed metta, loving kindness as a quality within yourself, all beings will experience that of you also, which is really mudita, joy for others. They will experience mudita from your compassion, and you mudita for them from your compassion, your metta. And all of this helps to develop this equanimity. These are the 4 Brahma Viharas. So you don't learn to love everyone, you learn to develop these 4 Brahma Viharas, which will culminate in the result of you having metta, loving kindness for all beings, unconditionally. I hope that answers your question. And I apologise for leaving out the very nice preamble, but that's personal, so we'll keep that between us. Okay, again, I'll jump straight to the highlighted bit. If I need to make reference to the rest of the statement, I will. Does this mean there is different ways to practice anapanasati to emphasize samadhi versus vipassana and vice versa? Or is there one way to do it and both are developed in conjunction? So I will read the preamble because you answer the question yourself. Hello Phra Dan, so happy you made it safely. Oh, thank you. So am I. I wanted to ask you a question regarding samadhi versus vipassana meditation. Some people say these are 2 different meditative paths. However, when reading the Satipatthana and Anapanasati suttas, there seems to be elements of both samadhi and vipassana in meditation methods. the Buddha, in the meditation methods the Buddha prescribes. Does this mean, excuse me, does this mean there is different ways to practice anapanasati to emphasize samadhi versus vipassana and vice versa? Or is there one way to do it and both are developed in conjunction? Yes, there's one way to do it and both are developed in conjunction as the Buddha prescribed, as you quite rightly say. So you answer your question. It isn't two meditative paths. Vipassana and samadhi go hand in hand. In the Noble Eightfold Path, right after right effort, come sati, mindfulness, followed by samadhi, the eighth of the Noble Eightfold Path. Often translated as concentration, but meditation, as in sitting and bringing your attention, your conscious awareness to one meditation object. This, in the case of anapanasati, is the breath, just watching the breath as you breathe in and breathe out. Keeping this in mind, eventually bringing your mind to stillness, to a single pointed focus on that one thing, breathing. Vipassana is mindfulness of everything, so it's a wider perspective. If one thinks of a camera or something like that, taking in a whole panoramic view, then this could be a way to describe vipassana, whereas focusing in on one object more closer to you could be described as samadhi. However, the way they're not separate, the way they are entwined, and the way the Buddha prescribed them as both being practiced is they are like two sides of the same coin, two sides of the same hand. You cannot really have one without the other. Throughout all of our daily activities, we practice sati, mindfulness. This helps develop our quality of concentration, ability to focus, keep our attention and awareness about us so that when we sit in meditation formally, we can focus on one meditation object more easily, more readily. It's more accessible to us. We've been training the mind all day. Similarly, when we're sitting formally, meditating, we train the mind like sharpening a knife to be able to really focus in on just one meditation object, and ignoring the five hindrances that are coming to distract us from that by being aware of them and not reacting to them, thus developing this equanimity, upekkha, that I was describing in the four Brahma Viharas. This is developing samadhi. By this practice of developing samadhi, we also improve our quality of vipassana, mindfulness, sati. Vipassana specifically means seeing clearly. So if samadhi is concentration, translated as concentration, vipassana is truly translated as seeing clearly. Seeing clearly with awareness all that is happening. This is mindfulness. By this practice of samadhi, we develop a greater quality of seeing clearly. Being aware, awareness, awakeness, vipassana, and vice versa. So you do answer your question very well in your question there, by referring to what the Buddha taught us, what the Buddha, as you say, prescribed, and that's a good way of putting it. The Buddha was like a physician we go to with the ailment of suffering, and he prescribes the cure. That is the Noble Eightfold Path. Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. All of this in our daily activities is the medicine. If we take the prescription, we get the cure. We understand suffering. We understand the cause of suffering. We understand that there can be an end of suffering through this practice of the Noble Eightfold Path, Sila, Samadhi, Panya. The doctor being the Buddha, the physician, Sila, Samadhi, Panya, the Noble Eightfold Path being the medicine. And therefore we are all able to receive the cure. But we must take the medicine. And a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, they say, yes, in the familiar song. The spoonful of sugar, it's very noisy, this road, isn't it? I hope you can hear me all right for about, what's the time? It's 5:30 in the morning. They must be all rushing off to their temples. The sugar to help the medicine go down in this practice is meditation. It's the joy, the piti and sukha. Sukha sounds like sugar, doesn't it? Sukha means happiness, and piti means joy and rapture. And this is what we develop whilst when we are able to meditate, when we've practiced vipassana and samadhi together, we will find enormous, huge benefits in this practice. Just sitting formally, we will have piti and sukha, joy and rapture, physical and emotional joy, feelings. And this will result in sukha, happiness. And that sukha is the sugar that helps the medicine go down, helps us to keep sila, keep the precepts, helps us to have the discipline to meditate, samadhi. And that is in its turn developing wholesome mind states, reducing unwholesome mind states. This is panya, wisdom. This is the whole path. This is Buddhism. And Namo Buddhaya, sorry for asking, but where are you living in Sri Lanka? Currently, I'm staying in a place called, or near, a place called Bentota, which is about, I don't know, 70 something, 80 kilometers away from Colombo, on the southwest of Colombo, on the west coast, by the beach. This road you can hear is the main road from, I suppose, Colombo to Ngol, which is the main city on the very bottom of Sri Lanka, on the point at the bottom, where there is the big international cricket ground. And also some very famous Buddhist temples, one particularly on an island which is very renowned for very famous monks and authors that have come from there, that you'll probably know more about than me, as most people do in these things, some of these things. So that's where I'm staying. And you don't have to be sorry for asking, I'm very happy to tell you. Excellent, right. How should we greet you? I think we've done that one, but now we've got a new title here. They call me Sadhu. Like sadhu, 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 which means excellent, wonderful, excellent, wonderful, excellent, wonderful and marvellous. They call you sadhu like a sadhu in India, a wandering ascetic. So some people call me sadhu, some people call me Bhante here. I think really the common worldwide Pali word, if we always go back to Pali, like anicca, dukkha, anatta, sila, samadhi, panya, these Pali words are common throughout Buddhism, throughout all of the world. The Pali word for venerable is simply Bhante. So I think Bhante is fine if you need to call me anything at all. And my given name is Dan, D-A-N, which is short for Daniel. So you can either call me Bhante Dan, because in Thailand, where I've done most of my training, they don't usually use your Pali name. They use your given name, prefixed by Phra, Tan, or Ajahn, depending on where you are in your monastic career. So I'm called Phra Dan there. But as I'm not there, Bhante Dan is perfectly fine, or just Bhante. Just to keep it simple. My Pali name is Dhammarakkhita. One word, Dharma, as in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Rakhita, it means protected by. I am protected by the Dharma. And I am protected by the Dharma. That is the truth. Knowing the Dharma protects me in a very real way, and we often get given a Pali name that begins with the same letter as our given name. So you could just call me Bhante D, that is fine also, but I don't really mind. Also, I'd like to deepen my own practice and stay at some monasteries, meet with monks and so on. Could you please help me with this? Yes, if you tell me where you are, I'll point you in the right direction. But for anybody, and generally, you can just Google local monasteries. The first step is to just go to a monastery. You'll be welcome. Don't be shy. Don't expect anything though either. You're not going to get a great reception. Monks are just living, going about their business of sila, samadhi, panya, so meditating. They may not even greet you, speak to you, but you're very welcome to go. The best thing to do is be prepared to meditate, make sure you've eaten, make sure you've been to the toilet, head to a monastery. Now this is if, of course, you do have one near you or in your country even, firstly. Just go there, find the meditation hall, go and sit and meditate. Eventually someone, even if you have to do this for some days, I had to, someone will come and ask you what you're doing. Are you interested in Buddhism or something? I've not seen you before. They will ask. But don't expect a great big reception. And go to be invisible, don't go to be noticed. Just go and blend in, become part of the furniture. And then you are part of, you're experiencing the Sangha that is there to support you, and you are there to support them. So take some food or requisite, something they need, some soap powder, some washing powder, something like that. But if you're not in the fortunate position of having monasteries in your country, then you need to use the online, if you can, use all of the online resources like this and others, of which there are many, and similarly let me know where you are with your practice and I can point you in the right direction. It's a very individual path, whichever one you choose, only to be, you can tailor it yourself. Be careful not to go down in the wrong directions as we can with the internet, with YouTube, with these sort of destructive wormholes of searching with hyperlinks and so on. Keep your goal in mind. If you've decided on Theravada Buddhism, stick with it. The Thai Forest tradition, stick with it. Mahayana, stick with it. Whichever it is, don't keep flipping from one to the other. You'll just make it too difficult to go in any direction. Choose a direction you wish to go, stick to that route. And I can help you, but you please just let me know, unless you already do say that. No. So let me know where you are and I'll gladly point you in the right direction. Okay. Is there an unsuitable time to do meditation? For example, after midnight. No, there's no unsuitable time. In fact, every time is perfect for meditation. All of the time is fantastic. And then the reasonings behind this is because you've heard all these stories, and I'm cutting a bit of that out about your own practice because that's interesting to me, but not necessarily everybody all of the times. But do all these, you've heard of these spirits and maybe devas, I think, but spirits of a not so wholesome nature. So you're asking, and you're referring to ghosts and spirits must be active at this time, so after midnight you're referring to. Do all these spirits come to disturb when we are meditating, when we do our meditation? There are also cases where people get mentally disturbed when they do meditation. What is your take on this? Okay, no spirits, no ghosts are going to come and disturb your meditation. You may imagine, you may have phenomena, all kinds of different phenomena. I think I spoke of this in a recent talk. Arise through our meditation of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching even. All of these normal experiences we have through our sense doors, sense windows, including thinking, the sixth sense, and most difficult to deal with and powerful because you can't just shut your thinking. You can shut your eyes, but even then you see, you imagine. You can close your ears with earmuffs or something. You can still Imagine sound, imagine smells, feelings, tastes. It's there. It's in our powerful sense of thinking. Phenomena as such will arise through meditation, more so in the early days of practice, until we are able to really get our mind focused and stay with our meditation object. When we are able to deal more easily with these 5 hindrances that come as obstacles, distractions, get in the way of our practice. The hindrance of sensual desire, ill will, laziness, restlessness and worry, and doubt. These are the 5 common hindrances, not only in meditation, but in all of our daily activities. Things that stop us attaining our goals, obstacles to what we want to achieve in our lives, are all as a result of these 5 hindrances. Wanting stuff or not wanting stuff, liking, loving or hating, not liking. Just laziness, restlessness, this is worrying about the past and worry about the future, and doubt about our practice. Those 5 hindrances get in the way of not just meditation, everything. When a phenomena arise, attribute it to one of the 5 hindrances. If you need to label it, label it. If it's a ghost, say seeing. I am seeing a ghost. It's just seeing. You will soon realize you're really not seeing. Your eyes are closed. It is imagination. So in answer to your question, no, they will not. Now also in answer to your question, there are cases, people getting mentally disturbed when they do meditate. Well, I don't know of any specific cases of people becoming mentally disturbed as a result of meditation. There may be stories, I don't know of any real cases, and I've met many people meditating as I do in this practice. Now this is not pranayama, hyperventilating kind of meditation, as is in some different religions and different traditions. This is simple sitting, observation, letting the mind become calm and tranquil. So even if you are predisposed to mental disturbance, if you have some mental health issues, meditation, if practiced in the way I practice meditation and try and hope to share with you, will do you no harm. If it would, I wouldn't share it with you. If it could, I wouldn't do it. It is simply sitting and doing nothing. Sitting and doing nothing may highlight pre-existing mental conditions, phenomena, and make you more aware of them. Could be what is being confused with creating, how did you put it, mental disturbance. But it isn't the cause, it's recognizing what is there. And after all, this is what the practice is about, seeing the truth, what is there. Identifying it as something that is suffering, something that you don't want, something that's unsatisfactory. And then seeking a cure, seeking the medicine, the prescription. And the Buddha's prescription is, well, keep precepts. This will go a long way towards any mental health conditions. Certainly the last of intoxication. Not medicine. Prescribed medicine from your physician is fine. But if you're drinking or smoking drugs or taking drugs of a recreational nature, then this should be avoided. This should be stopped. I hope that helps. Right, I deliver letters for work and sometimes come across stray animals, mainly cats. Oh, nice. Sometimes I feed them if I have leftovers on hand. And are there any other ways for me to express compassion to animals in my daily routine? Well, I think that's certainly compassion, and compassion enough. It's also metta, so it's karuna. It's also metta, loving kindness. It's also mudita, joy for others, because you're having joy that they're happy receiving what you're giving. It's also dana, it's generosity, it's giving, it's kindness. It's also selflessness. Yes, you're giving for their benefit. No one else sees you, nobody else knows you're doing this, so it's selflessness. It's practicing the abandonment of personality view, Sakkaya Ditthi. It is all of that, what you're doing in being generous towards stray animals, is developing so many good Buddhist qualities, but just good qualities, good human qualities. One thing I'll say, be a little careful. So many, I see so many people, I will say foreigners, when I'm travelling, who willy-nilly go around feeding all of the animals and even adopt and take on animals. I'm not suggesting like how you're doing it. What you're doing is fine. And you're asking me, is there anything more you can do? If there's anything more you can do, give whatever you have to give to a professional organisation in the area that looks after animals. So if there's an organisation that say helps treat dogs for a disease, let's say rabies or something like that, or helps, let's say, what is the word, I'm not sure whether it's sterilise or neuters or spades, apologies if these are inappropriate words, but whatever it does that stops dogs and cats of a stray nature breeding in a harmless, kind way, help by giving there's some little cats out here, hope they come in. Give whatever you can to those organisations whom are organised to deal with such things, which helps all beings, all of the cats, all of the dogs. Now I see so many foreigners just giving all of the biscuits in India, the Pali Ji, even buying chicken and food and feeding all the cats and dogs for many months, many weeks, many days, many weeks, many months, and not only are they not really taking into consideration the real needs of the animals in the vicinity, it's kindness, nothing wrong with it, it's very much it's generosity. But some people, when they want to go that extra mile, like you're asking me about, go over the top. But then what happens is their visa runs out and they disappear. Then those animals have become reliant on that person. And I've seen then what happens to those cats and dogs. As I said earlier, we cannot help, we cannot cure all beings, the entire world. We can only help ourselves and set a good example. So if you want to try and do more, then go to a permanent organisation in the area that will be there after you've gone in order to continue the good work they're doing, and you can assist them whilst you're there in that sense, or even go and work there and help with them if you don't want to or can't give them money. But try not to make loads of creatures, beings dependent on you if you're not going to, well, none of us are going to be anywhere permanently. So leave it to the professionals. And they are, in these countries, there are many NGOs, many organisations. Check them out, you can do that online these days, but help those to help all these lovely cats and dogs, rather than trying to take it on yourself. I've seen foreigners in countries with 20 cats, because of course the cats breed so quickly, and they're feeding them, and they've got 20 or 30 cats. Visa runs out, what happens to those 20 or 30 cats? It's very sad what happens to those 20 or 30 cats, I can assure you. Now, if that person had put all of that good effort, those people, I'm not talking about one particular person, many I meet, those people put all of their energy and resources into the organisations that are still there, whom, yes, do go along and clear up the mess, the 20 cats that are abandoned, after those people have disappeared. But if people could just support those organisations whilst they're present, that's much more helpful, it's much kinder. I didn't mean to give a lecture or get on a soapbox about that, but it's something I see and experience so very closely. And being that we're trying to develop loving kindness for all beings, it's very difficult when we don't understand how compassion must be treated carefully. held gently like that egg. Compassion should be for ourselves and all beings, but not in an aggressive form, not in even a defensive form. We don't fight a war of compassion. We have the quality, we develop the quality of compassion to give just what we can give. After all, even if we have unlimited resources to give, we cannot continue to give forever. We also are subject to aging, sickness and death. We will be parted from those that we love, as those that love us will be parted from us in due course, including all the little lovely puppies and kittens, bunny rabbits, and now these new creatures. I have friends here about this long, well, and longer, and this long, and I don't know their names yet, but they've got long thin noses and funny tongues that come out. All of these wonderful creatures that we meet along the way, we can help them, but appropriately. And thank you for your very good question, and I'm very happy, and thank you for your kindness to all beings. Yes. Okay. Can people find ways to reach enlightenment through other means and living traditions, such as Christianity, for example? Living traditions. I'm not sure what living traditions means. I guess religions. Because if it wasn't living, it wouldn't be a tradition anymore. We wouldn't know about it, I suppose. But anyway, it depends on what your definition of enlightenment is. In terms of Buddhism, enlightenment is what the Buddha attained to. Buddha means awakened. So our understanding of enlightenment is to become awake, to realize the nature of existence, anicca, dukkha, anatta, developing the 7 factors of enlightenment, of patience, of equanimity, of ability to have mindfulness, have samadhi, and concentration, sitting in the meditation, kindness, generosity, all of these wonderful qualities I've been talking about throughout this talk as well, and as many previously. This is what we call enlightenment. Now, if your chosen living tradition or religion causes the conditions for those 7 enlightenment factors that we call enlightenment in Buddhism to become prevalent in your life, for you to have those qualities, then yes. But most of them, from my experience, don't really concentrate on that. Christianity, for example, is more putting all of your faith in the belief in a God and praying to this God that God will save you and save all beings. Whereas I've just said, we only look to save ourselves in order that we can set an example for others to follow so that they can save themselves. No praying, no worshipping, no asking a higher being to help in that respect. Purely putting the responsibility upon our existence, our actions of body, speech and mind to create the right causes and conditions for a better existence, for the development of qualities that lead us towards nibbana, which is eventually the final attainment of the highest degree of enlightenment. Within this lifetime, becoming free from suffering within this lifetime. So you did specify various religions, but I've just generalized them all in my response there. How should we have done that one? I have much ill will and jealousy around other people. Will these unwholesome mind states disappear eventually through practicing sila, samadhi, panya? How do you recommend dealing with ill will? Okay, well, those 5 hindrances I mentioned earlier, the second is ill will. Ill will is not wanting what we have, as sensual desire is wanting what we don't have, desire. Both of them are desire. And yes, the practice of sila, keeping precepts, samadhi, meditation, and panya, developing wisdom, reducing wholesome mind states and increasing wholesome mind states will result in the reduction of these 5 hindrances, all of them, not just ill will. So jealousy, resentment, you didn't say resentment, did you? But jealousy, much ill will towards other people, for instance, driving along and someone cuts you up, you might go like this. This is not equanimity. When you've developed enough metta in your practice, compassion, karuna in your practice, mudita, joy for others, you will develop equanimity through the practice of sila, samadhi, panya, mainly through meditation, through watching unwholesome mind states arise, seeing the cause of them, desire, and watching them pass away. When you don't jump out of reactiveness rather than unreactiveness, equanimity, when you don't jump to try and satisfy an insatiable desire, you'll see it passes away without much effort, without having to do anything. This is the same with ill will. When you don't react to someone cutting you up, you'll see the anger dissipates, dissolves of its own accord. Next time when someone cuts you up, you think, it's a lot easier just to have compassion for that person. In a way, feel sorry for that person. They're in such a hurry that they may be late for something important. Support them. May they go safely. May the next person they cut up also be kind to them. Think metta, think compassion, think joy for others. This develops equanimity throughout your daily activities, particularly in these examples when ill will arises. This might be a long video, but I'm really enjoying the idea that I'm getting through these questions that I've skipped for so long, and once again apologies for that. I hope you're hearing my answers even though I'm leaving out a bit of your preamble. But I hope you can hear me at all with all this traffic noise. I'm trying to get my head round dependent origination, though it's quite complex. Is there a relatively simple explanation for it? Well, I've made a talk, a video. It probably is called Dependent Origination. It'll have that in the title. So if you search, go to YouTube, search with the search thing, English monk dependent origination. It'll come up. Words to that effect anyway. If you put the English Buddhist monk, even if you just put dependent origination, there aren't very many talks on YouTube about it because, as you rightly say, it seems complex. But it isn't really. The hardest thing is remembering the links. We call it the 12 links of dependent origination. It's not called that. It's anyway, there's a sutta which we chant in Pali, and you can also chant it in English, or at least read the translation in English, of these 12 links of dependent origination, called the Pachintiyaya Sutta. I think that's what it's called, and I can never quite remember myself, even off the top of my head, the 12 links. That's the most complicated bit. If you read, just have on a piece of paper the 12 links, if you want to know a quick and easy way to understand it, then everything that happens to you in your life, refer to these 12 links, and you'll see how causes and conditions result in everything. Everything is a result of causes and conditions. And that's all the 12 links of dependent origination explain. How desire ends up in suffering. It's as simple as that. Our desire is suffering. There's suffering, the Four Noble Truths. There's suffering, cause of suffering, end of suffering, path leading to the end of suffering. The cause of suffering is explained very clearly in the 12 links of dependent origination. Okay. Next. Even though I have stopped these behaviors, can the karma from past still affect me to be reborn in a lower realm, or as an animal after this life. So you list all of the things you've done. I won't go through those, but for us all of our bad karma, all of the bad things we've done, will be the causes and conditions for our future existence, whether it's in this life or the next, whether it's in the next few minutes or in the next 10 years. All of our actions of body, speech and mind are karma, are causes, and will affect the conditions around us, are the causes and conditions for what we are, what we become, what we experience. Now, if you have acted badly, so bad actions of body, speech and mind, they will create causes and conditions imminently or in the future or in the next life. The more actions of body, speech and mind that you do now that are good, so generosity, kindness like this, loving kindness, compassion, helping others, meditation, practicing patience, understanding the Dharma, just practicing in accordance with Sila, Samadhi, Panya, the more diluted the bad actions of the past become. So you can think of it like dilution. If you have salt in a glass of water, the water is salty. If you put salt in a big body of water, like a lake, you would not notice it. So the more you do that's good from now on, the less that will be noticed of the bad karma you have created, the results of the bad actions you have performed. So the salt is still there. We don't get rid of, we cannot burn away bad karma, as in some religions. It is always there. We are responsible for our karma, we are the heirs to our karma. However, if we do a lot of good, we become arahants, and we can do with bad karma, like Angulimala, who just murdered 999 people, but in previous lives had created such a lot of good karma, and then finally in this life created so much good karma, he was able to become an arahant and become enlightened, even though he'd murdered 999 people. Because over the eons and eons and eons of lifetimes, countless lifetimes, he'd created so much good karma that was very diluted. Now, it's not to say you can go and do bad things, because that will completely salt the waters, muddy the waters again, and you're starting afresh. So it's there, but it will have little effect if you now continue in the path of the Dharma, in the path of Sila, Samadhi, Panya. And I think this is the last one, and as things are livening up around here just now, and it's time for me to go on alms round, although I haven't determined what is a good time to go yet. I'm going to try again today. I get fed, but I'm not getting the food put in my bowl here. But that's no problem. People are kindly feeding me. That's the main thing. But I'd like to do it at the same time every day and just eat once. This is my goal. This is how the Buddha taught us, to go with our bowl, bare feet, each day, and people will feed you. So I'll try again in a minute after this last question. So if we are reborn and can't remember it's a long answer, our past, doesn't that mean we actually die? So if we are reborn and can't remember our past, doesn't that mean that we actually die? I mean, if I am reborn and I have no memory, who I was, isn't that death? Yes, we do die. Everything dies. All conditioned things are subject to aging, are anicca, dukkha, anatta, are impermanent, unsatisfactory, and out of our control, including our bodies and our thinking minds, which are subject to aging, sickness, and death. Even if you develop Alzheimer's disease or a similar form of dementia where you forget all of your intellectual knowledge, even your own name, even how to eat and how to go to the toilet, you can forget all of this. In a way, your physical body is alive, but your thinking mind has died. We die. There is death, yes. So what you're probably asking, so if we are reborn and can't remember our past lives, does that mean we actually die? Yes, you do die, but what is reborn isn't that of the thinking mind, what we know intellectually, isn't that of this physical body, what we feel and what we experience through seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. It is the knowing of all of that. It is the conscious awareness, it's the heart mind, it's the citta that moves into, is reborn into a new body, a new thinking mind that knows nothing of this past life. Now, with very deep practice, one can draw from past experience, because of course you're bringing, as I've just said, all of this karma with you, the causes and conditions you've put in place to be reborn into whichever realm you have been reborn into whatever conditions you have created for yourself. So to some extent this carries forward, but not your thinking brain, not your body. That has died, yes. If there was no death, there would be permanence, and there is not permanence. All conditioned things are impermanent. This is what the Buddha taught us, but not just what the Buddha taught us, it is the very evident truth of existence, what we can see experientially for ourselves. Even this planet, this universe, is impermanent in its very nature. Aging and growing, and its time scale is not even fathomable, it's changing. The moon, they've just discovered, is 40 million years older than it was previously. Think about that, 40 million years older than it was previously. It's aged 40 million years. How old are we? Very, very tiny, tiny age, isn't it? I'm 56 compared to 40 million, which has just been added on to the moon's age. That moon that I see, full moon, half moon, dark moon, half moon, full moon, 4 times, growing, waxing, shrinking, waning, month after month after month, for years and decades and countless number of years, almost impossible to determine, has been around. That to me is evidence of rebirth, that all we develop through these causes and conditions we put in place in this lifetime, when this physical body dies, this thinking mind dies, that citta is reborn into this realm or another. It doesn't matter, you don't have to believe that. You will experience it for yourself, or you won't. The main message is we keep sila, we keep the moral precepts, we don't kill, steal, we don't engage in sexual misconduct, we don't lie, we don't take intoxicants. And this way we're able to practice meditation. And through meditation we develop wisdom. This is Sila Samadhi Panya, the teachings, the practice of Dharma, the Buddha. So on that point, I hope there's something useful in there for you today that you can use. If not, then just let it go. And thank you for watching. And thank you for subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and share with your friends and all of that stuff. Sukhi Hotu.